Good evening. Sanbonani, Molweni, Riperile, Kwenand, Khotsong, Salam alaikum. Thank you. I can see that at least we are here to celebrate. Let me take the opportunity to acknowledge our guest of honor, the person we are here tonight to celebrate, the person whose talents have made this country a voice of reason and a voice of justice in a global world that has forgotten how to humanize others. Program Director, Ms. Kathy Mutlatlani, TV and radio personality, our Program Director this evening. We also have, accompanied by our colleagues who are doing the sign language, thank you very much. Our honored recipient of 2025 Leadership Practice Award, Dr. Naledi Pandor, former Minister of Department of International Relations and Cooperation. I don't normally interject table of precedence, but I think it would be a great honor that I will reread and then you give a round of applause. Our honored recipient of the 2025 Leadership in Practice Award, Dr. Naledi Pandor. Thank you. I think as Africans, we forget to honor our icons. And I think just that a round of applause is very important for us. And I think I'm very elated that we are honoring you, Dr. Pandor. Let me also recognize the family that is here. I've been honored to meet Dr. Pandor's husband, daughter, sisters, aunt and uncle, and everybody in the family that loves Dr. Pandor. Thank you very much for sharing your family with us this evening. Members of Unisa Council and convocation of the President, convocation of Unisa, Mr. Justice Dabampe. I recognize Advocate Maluleke. I also recognize I have to take my specs off. I also recognize Professor. Please remind me before I make a mistake. Dr. Nzo. You know, Dr. Nzo, you have just come in, so I didn't recognize you, so I apologize. Let us also recognize Dr. Nzo, who is a member of Council of the University of South Africa. Let me recognize members of the executive management who are present here, extended management, Executive Dean of the Business School, Professor Msweli, Mr. Enver Surti, former Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, members of the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, esteemed members of the Diplomatic Corps. We are quite appreciative to have in our presence multiplicities of excellencies and many diplomats around here. Let me also recognize local, provincial, and national government representatives, esteemed guests from SBL alumni, all members of Unisa community, epistemic communities, staff, students, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm sure you're wondering why I started with a long table of precedents. I would have failed dismally in the eyes of Dr. Naledi Pandor, the diplomat, the national diplomat or continental diplomat, who always encourages us to ensure that we follow the table of precedents. It is my privilege and singular honor to welcome you to this auspicious occasion to honor the lifelong service of Dr. Naledi Pandor, our honored guest and the recipient of the 2025 Leadership in Practice Award of the University of South Africa, the Global School of Business. Tonight is not a night of long speeches and lectures, as universities are often known for. It is a night to celebrate one of the outstanding daughters of the continent, an excellent woman who has served and led South Africa with distinction for 5 decades, for half a century, committing her talents, her knowledge, the responsibilities and duties she would have been given to ensure that this democracy that we have gained since 1994 becomes meaningful, resourceful, and aids our citizens to being co-constructors of the future that we yearn for. Her illustrious career in education, public service, international relations, diplomacy, and politics in general is one of awe and envy, but more important, one of change and impact. In the words of the American feminist ethicist Dolores Williams, the task of conscious women leaders is to reconstruct and redeem our world from the invisibility of injustices that happen in our world. It is for such women to ensure that they are at the center of claiming the emancipatory project of humanizing the country and the world. I'm honored as I reflect on these words of Dolores Williams that this evening, as much as I know that many would cite and celebrate the contribution of yours in public life, Dr. Pandor, for us as a university, we recognize not only your public life, your diplomacy, your combined experiences of unbroken leadership. And I think we often forget to recall your beginnings and your roots as a child and a daughter of the national liberation struggle for freedom. Prior to serving as a member of parliament in 1994, at the dawn of democracy, Dr. Pandor grew up and served her movement, the African National Congress, and the peoples of the world as an educator, a linguist, a volunteer, an organizer in the global anti-apartheid movement in the countries such as Lesotho, Botswana, Eswatini, England, and many other countries. I'd like to believe that it is during this period as an exiled activist and a leader that she began to appreciate and hone her leadership skills as an internationalist with a progressive outlook. Ladies and gentlemen, whereas we celebrate and honor Dr. Pandor in her own right as a servant leader with extraordinary achievements, as Unisa, we do not want to miss the opportunity to remind everyone that we are also celebrating and hoisting a long-established heritage of struggle, heroism, and excellence of the Z.K. Matthews family lineage here in South Africa and in the world. We also want to underscore that the Matthews family has a long-standing and proud association with the University of South Africa, the University of the Land. Dr. Pandor is a proud granddaughter of great Professor Z.K. Matthews and a daughter of Regina and Joe Matthews, stalwarts of the national liberation movement in South Africa. Therefore, when we celebrate Dr. Pandor tonight, we are equally recognizing the rich contribution of several generations of the Matthews family for over a century and the lessons that we hope Unisa would have contributed in that long lineage, as Professor Z.K. Matthews was one of the pioneer students of our university. In 1923, Professor Z.K. Matthews, who was also a cousin of Sol Plaatje, the first Secretary General of the African National Congress, became the first South African to earn a Bachelor of Laws degrees at this beautiful university, Unisa. Today, our great hall, the Z.K. Matthews, is a great hall standing as an everlasting monument and a testimony to the great legacy of Professor Z.K., an educator, public intellectual, freedom fighter, a remarkable internationalist in his own right, and his appreciation of music is heartfelt and written in the archives of the University of South Africa. I hope, Minister Pandor, you equally appreciate music as our archives tell us about your great-grandfather. This is how I wish we could locate the history and contribution of the person of Dr. Pandor tonight. A truly outstanding daughter of Africa, an excellent woman who has served and led South Africa with distinction. And when you became a Minister of Education in 2004, what we really appreciate is you really agitated for the transformation of universities, for universities in South Africa being sites of excellence whose sciences can contribute to the public, the private, the civil society, but the innovations that any society would like to have in order to address the citizens' questions. Dr. Pandor was thrust in the middle of a massive transformation project in higher education sector, the review of the size and shape of the sector guided by the National Plan on Higher Education, and the White Paper 3 then, a reform agenda which became known as the Measures and Incorporations of Higher Education Institutions in South Africa. Although with mixed results and imperfections, Dr. Pandor steered the system into uncharted territory and drove the process with grit, dexterity, and a sense of purpose. The Unisa today is a proud product of that period and the processes of measures and incorporations. It is for this reason that for now and always, the name of Dr. Pandor will be etched in the annals of history when we cite women and men who shaped our education system, its innovation systems, as well as its democratic dividend and democratic order. 2 days ago, an independent United Nations inquiry concluded for the first time that Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians in Gaza and that the country's top leaders have incited genocide in what it described as the most authoritative UN finding to date. That would not have happened. That would not have happened if the courage of people, of women such as Dr. Pandor, would not have raised in our consciousness as human beings the death-dealing situation that our sisters and brothers, their children, and their families are enduring in Palestine. And thank you for being that voice that Delores Williams reminds us. You redeem us from injustice. You invite us to be co-constructors of a just world, a peaceful world, a world whose economic systems are not layered on death-dealing systems, but life-affirming systems. To that, I'd like you to give her another round of applause. Once more, the name of Dr. Pandor and the collective leadership of South African government will be inscribed in the books of history as one of the key initiators of South African case at the International Court of Justice against the State of Israel. The South African leadership, including Dr. Pandor, is vindicated not only by the United Nations, but by many but by many other institutions and many voices across the world, Palestine is suffering a genocide, and that genocide must stop now. Dr. Pandor used her experiences, the lived reality of apartheid, the dehumanization that would have made it impossible for majority of Black people to be seen as human prior to 1994, and used that to really anchor and support all other citizens of the world whose voices, whose lives are maimed. You will be pleased to know, Dr. Pandor, that the University of South Africa Senate took a resolution against the ongoing Palestinian genocide. They added to the many voices that are calling for the end of the genocide and demanded justice and restoration of humanity for Palestinians, our collective human dignity. Equally, we said for those Israelis who are not happy about what their government is deciding, the maiming of others, we equally stand in solidarity and encourage them to projecting their voices even more for justice. Finally, in her PhD thesis published in 2018, the scholar that Professor Msweli referred to, not only the diplomat, not only a public servant, but a great public intellectual. She writes on contested meanings of transformation in higher education in post-apartheid South Africa. In this, Dr. Pandor makes the following insightful conclusion about the struggle of transformation and the consistent need for those of us who are in this building, who are participating virtually, and our families to be partners in ensuring that education is a resource that our founding father, His Excellency President Mandela, would have reminded us about. Dr. Pandor calls, and I'd like to quote, calls for the transformation. He says, calls for transformation appear to argue for change in the race composition of the student body and staff in order to correct the past wrongs, while also insisting that the objectives of non-racial society should not be neglected. The most vocal differences appear to arise when there is a demand for transformation in terms of including previously ignored knowledge and study of regions that do not usually form part of academic and intellectual discourses within South Africa's universities. And agreeing with many advocates of justice in our university to stating that for countries to succeed, they must strengthen their indigenous, endogenous knowledge systems, and when they engage with the global knowledge systems, it should be because we are centered and we know who we are, our sciences, our civilizations, but also the contributions that Africa would be making, has been making, and will continue making in the world. I think many of us will agree with this conclusion and perspective that Dr. Pandor has shared with us. It captures our collective aspiration, reveals the critical questions of transformation that have exercised our minds in the past 30 years, but it also helps us to move beyond just people as a site of transformation, to looking at the sciences, the innovations, the investments, the infrastructures, the architectures of governance, so that higher education systems are not just theoretical, but the practice and praxis help our countries, help our businesses, our corporate sector, our public sector, and our civil society sector to being life-affirming, competitive, and able to contribute to meaningful lives for our society. For me, the size and shape of higher education moment, the case against the challenges of injustices in the world, the research that you have spawned and continue to spawn, the reflexivity that you are engaging us on, and the courage to stand as a beacon of hope, calling for justice with peace against Israel and its hegemonic power over Palestine will forever remain in our hearts, and is something that this august university would like to celebrate as an important contribution that you have not made only to our university, to our country, but to the global world. Thank you, Mayor Dr. Naledi Pandor, for your great work. And finally, without much ado, I recognize you're already coming. I think this is the third finally. I apologize. Without much further ado, in keeping with my promise, today is not about long speeches. I wish to take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Pandor on her well-deserved award, the Leadership in Practice Award. May you continue to inspire and serve with commitment, integrity, and humility. With these words, I want to enjoin the 400,000 students of the University of South Africa, the 1,200,000 alumni of this university, our Chancellor, His Excellency, President Beki, all the epistemic communities of the university extend their heartfelt congratulations, for you are truly an inspiration. Welcome to Unisa, the home of leaders, the university committed to shaping futures, your partner in ensuring that our country, our continent, contribute and express their voices in claiming the future. Welcome.